goddamn episode a day to 70. Anyway, whatever. Slowly, almost there, almost back to square even. This left arm's still weaker and smaller. It's more so smaller than it is weaker. I feel like it has the same amount of fibers and sort of, I don't know. It's hard to tell. Even with dumbbells, a lot of times we were like, even if one arm's significantly stronger, you get like this sort of proprioceptive limitation where your left arm might be quite a bit smaller or weaker or whatever, and you don't feel it though. Like your right arm just stays at the same sort of pressing rate as the left. But I definitely feel like my right can do a little bit more weight. But yeah, don't be deceived. Like you might have a muscular imbalance and just not really even perceive it unless you do one arm at a time. Like if I did one arm at a time here, press with my right arm, went for maximal reps, press with my left arm, went for maximal reps, then you would definitely see a huge difference. In fact, I might do that next session just to sort of show the point. But that doesn't look hugely different anymore as far as size and rep speed goes. But you can see here, like my right just then stopped on purpose because my left couldn't do it. And then I think on the last rep, my right just blows out through the air. And then the left is like, no, fuck. But yeah, not too bad. Not too far off. If it's a massive imbalance, massive muscular imbalance, you'll know it because mid-rep, you'll be like, whoa, like you just can't do it. So yeah, I mean, not too bad. Back to 38 kilos on the incline dumbbell press. Best I got to last bulk was 42. And I'm like 7 kilos lighter, or maybe 6 kilos lighter, and I'm in a calories depleted state. So I think I'm doing pretty damn good. Anyway, and then I'm doing my decline press. Now, today I want to talk about where do you get your information? Where do you learn how to work out? Like, there's so much conflicting information nowadays. And the thing is, I pan back to when I first started lifting, and there wasn't heaps of conflicting information because there wasn't much information, or there was less information. But the difference was, it was the Wild West. Like, you didn't really know who was fucking stupid and who was kind of smart, because people were just saying crazy shit back when I first started lifting when I was a teenager. And you would just buy it. You'd have like people like Carly Muscle, who's like, yeah, man, just do fucking 500 push-ups and fucking like whatever the fuck, and eat canned tuna, man, and fucking hyphy mud, and like just insanely shit advice from a highly fucking roided up, steroid abusing genetic freak. And everyone was just like, yeah, that's great advice, this is cool, man, like 100 push-ups a day or whatever, you know what I mean? Prison workouts. Nowadays, if a Carly Muscle came out and was like, yeah, man, hyphy mud and fucking 60,000 push-ups a day, man, this sounds much more like the Hodge twins. They had some shit advice too, actually. The Hodge twins are another one. If these kind of guys came out today, you would have people going, who the fuck are these idiots? Like, we know more now about fitness. And it goes to show in people's physiques. People are bigger and stronger on average than they were when I first started lifting. So that's the first thing, is like, at least nowadays, even the people who, are kind of wrong have decent information. You know what I mean? Or you have people in the leading in the fitness industry who, even though aren't always right, generally you're going to make some pretty goddamn good gains if you listen to these people, because they're getting fact checked. People aren't just like saying, people still are saying crazy stupid shit, and I guess they have their own echo chamber or whatever, or no one's like made an exposure video on them yet. But on average, you have these massive channels who, for better or worse, maybe not better or worse, but on average are probably in the right more than they are in the wrong. So, I think the thing is now it's just too much paralysis by analysis. There's so much conflicting information, conflicting exercise scientists saying things that another guy will totally say, no, that's garbage based off studies and anecdotes and, all these different things. But now we understand the basic principles. And the thing I would consider is, if you're just confused and don't know who to listen to, is just get the undeniable fundamentals down, like the things that you cannot get around. Like, understand the Henneman size principle, understand that you need decent motor unit recruitment to make any decent adaptations, Understand, that volume is not the driver of hypertrophy, it's intensity. Understand fatigue management. Understand that first and foremost, above all else, progressive overload is the most important thing. But then understand the difference between, neurological adaptations and pure, fundamental contractile increased strength and size. These basic fundamentals that you get very easily if you just kind of kept up to date with the newest exercise science fundamentals. If you got there, you'd be 90% of the way there, and then you can add little nuances and experimentations and a bit of paralysis by analysis after that fact. Do my biceps get stretch mediated hypertrophy? I'll experiment with that for a bit. Cool. Or do they get better leverages in the stretch position, or is that just a fugazi? In my case, I was like, do the calves get stretch mediated hypertrophy? I did an experiment for 2 months, and bam, my fucking calves grew an inch. So that was a paralysis by analysis sort of moment where I started doing a bunch of experimentation with my calves. But what you don't want to fuck around with is the fundamentals. You don't want to be like, do I not have to progressive overload? Can I just go into the gym and lift weights and just over time just inadvertently get strong? No, because then how do you know you're in a surplus? How do you know you are overtrained? How do you know if the program is working? You need certain parameters on point that you can't fuck around with, which I have in the past myself massively. One of the biggest benefits I ever made, apart from switching to high intensity training to actually get full motor unit recruitment and full mechanical tension and actual reason to adapt and, not trying to just over compensate with volume and frequency. Apart from that, the biggest thing I ever did was just start tracking my progressions. Like, I never used to track my progressions because I'm a fundamentally extremely fucking lazy person. But then I just started using a spreadsheet with a few different exercises, and I started tracking progressions, and that made a huge difference, and it just creates consistency. Whereas before, I would just kind of willy-nilly do it here and there. I track progressions on powerlifting lifts sometimes when I used to do powerlifting, but sure as shit I didn't track progressions on side lateral raises or tricep extensions or forearms or any of these, lesser thought of, isolation movements. But when I started doing that, it made a huge difference. But yeah, just basic fundamentals. Understand how neurological adaptations work. Understand that if you do a shit ton of different variations of exercise, you're not going to make, pure muscular gains. You're going to make a bunch of coordination gains and sort of neurological gains where you can increase your ability to go up in the motor unit pool as opposed to just, fucking getting that full motor unit recruitment. Just these basic fundamentals of exercise science. If you learn those, you'll, one, know when someone's full of shit. Like, someone will say some shit like, oh yeah, do fucking 10 drop sets and 3 sets to failure and like work on your metabolic stress and, or someone will say, yeah, muscles grow by muscle damage. Like, some of those really old school, outdated information, or they won't outright say that specifically, but they'll say something about training that requires those things to be the way that our bodies work, which they are not. And then you just know that way of training's stupid, right? Like, if fucking 10, 12 years ago when I first started training, if Carly Muscle said, yeah, man, just get 500 push-ups a day, motherfucker, I'd be like, huh, why? Because that doesn't allow me full motor unit recruitment. That creates a bunch of muscle damage. That creates a bunch of fatigue. And I can't really, honestly, progressively overload a push-up. It might be okay for me as a novice for the first 6 months of training because you make adaptations to anything. But at a certain point, this ain't going to work unless I have the genetics and steroid usage that this Carly Muscle guy has. But no, back then, I didn't have any of that insight or information or exercise science knowledge, and therefore I just bought it. And I thought, fuck it, I'll drink hyphy mud and do 500 push-ups and make fuck all gains. And start getting, like, overuse injuries and shit. So just get to learning the fundamentals of exercise science, and you go be able to decipher through the bullshit. Then you'll know who to follow because someone will actually have significantly more knowledge on a topic and you're like, okay, this guy might be the way to follow.